I hate about my family, and I was going to film a childhood abuse story, but that would be like way over 2 hours, and I definitely don't want to sit here diving into like every single thing that happened. I will one day though, but today I was like, you know what? These are just some things that I personally cannot get past. Let's start off with number one. My mother and stepfather are the reason why my sister and I didn't have a good relationship when we were kids. Now, I'm 6 years older than my sister, right? So this was definitely not normal. Whenever I see this in other families of siblings not liking each other, they're usually around the same age. But my sister and I had such a big age gap, and it's not huge, but 6 years old. Like, I mean, me being 6 and my sister being an infant, and then of course as we gotten older, I was like, I just don't think that we should have this much, like this much. I just don't think that we should have this much beef. I really don't. And I thought of that like as I was in elementary and middle school. I was like, why does this girl hate me? Why does she hate me? And something that my mom used to do a lot was guilt trip me into being a people pleaser for my sister, like constantly making me suck up to my little sister because of the relationship that she had with hers. And she was like, oh, well, you're the older sister, you're her keeper, you know, it's your responsibility, and yada yada. And listen, for a while I understood, and I still kind of do understand where she came from because my sister was literally 6 years younger than me. But to say all of that and you're one of the main reasons behind her not liking me in the first place, it confused me. It made me feel like such a sack of shit as a kid. I digress. So the moment that my sister was born, I realized that there was a really big shift in our family dynamic. I grew up with my mother and my stepfather up until I was 18, right? So it was me, my mom, my stepdad, and then of course my little sister on the way. The moment that she arrived, it was this huge shift, and I already knew that I was going to get less attention. I think every kid really knows that whenever a sibling is being born, and maybe other kids don't do this, but I accepted it. Like, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, like she's getting all the attention, man. Like I was like, I'm gonna be a big sister. I get this. I wanted a sibling so bad. I wished for a sister because I have an older brother and we didn't really like grow up together. I saw him frequently, but we didn't like grow up together. So I was like, I want a sister. I want a best friend. The reason why I wished so hard for a little sister was because I thought like finally I'm gonna have a friend. Like a sibling is a built-in friend, because I didn't have any fucking friends in fucking school, right? And I also had stepsisters and they hated me. We'll get to that. But I was like, I need a friend. So mom, you need to have another baby. I think one day I said that. I was like, have another baby. Right now, when are you gonna have another baby? I was so excited. I was so excited when my sister was born. Oh my goodness. And I named her. I named her. So I was like, she's going to be my best friend. All for her to grow up to hate me. Up until I think she stopped hating me when she was like 12. 12? Yeah, like around 12. So when she was turning 12 and I was turning 13, that's when our relationship finally started to like mend a little bit, right? And we're close now. Like, I wouldn't say close. We have a good relationship, but I'm distant. I love my sister. I love her with all of my heart. None of this is her fault. I do not blame her. We've had this conversation many times. I do not blame her one bit. I haven't really ever blamed her. She was a kid. I always knew my mother was the issue. I love my mom. I love my mom so much. But something about my sister being born and her and my biological father never had a good relationship. I am his splitting image, unfortunately. So I think I was a constant reminder of the family that she like didn't have. And also I think maybe I was a little bit of a burden because she finally like had her little unit, you know, her sister, and then my stepdad, her biological father. Like, my mom finally had like her little family unit that she's always wanted. And I think me being there looking exactly like my father was kind of a burden and just the reminder of like everything she had to go through just to get this one moment. And that was definitely projected onto me. So when I was 6 years old, I noticed a really big shift in my mother and I's dynamic. That woman did not like that woman, my mommy. Like, she did not like me growing up. She loved me as her daughter. We had great moments. I know that she loves me very much. I love my mother very much. She did not like me as a growing girl. And I personally think that my stepfather followed along, right? I personally think that he followed along because it's like, you know what, like, well, I finally have a child on my own, so I don't need to take care of some other man's child, right? And like the mom doesn't even like her, so fuck her too. And I think that was the mindset. I'm not gonna lie. I think that was the mindset because how drastic this shift was from going from like a pretty happy family where like everything was cool, like stable household and yada yada yada, to having two grown adults being my biggest enemies possible. And then of course, little babies copy everything their parents do. So then of course my sister grew up not liking me because she saw her parents not like me either. Something that my mother and my stepfather used to do very frequently was, amongst other things, but make fun of me. And there was like this feeling in my stomach, right, where I was just like, this feels just like school. This feels just like school. This feels like what I go through at school. And it came with a really big like shame. Like I felt such shame. So as a kid, this is one of my, like, not hyperfixations, but one of my special interests, hygiene. I am obsessed with my hygiene routine, right? Because I did not have good hygiene as a kid. I didn't. We didn't live in the best building, we lived in the projects, okay? Rodents, bugs, and also sensory issues. I feel like a lot of this could have been solved with a diagnosis. You get where I'm going with this? Because I had a really hard time growing up, just like, like grasping on to like socially accepted things. And my mother specifically just didn't have a lot of patience with me. And I was trying really hard, but I did have a lot of hygiene issues growing up because I was terrified. I was terrified of what I would go in and see in the bathroom, and then also sensory issues. So one thing that, instead of like, I don't know, maybe taking me to the doctors or like just being patient, because I'm not a parent, I don't know like what exactly is the protocol for a child that has hygiene issues, but I know it's not what they were doing. So this hurts me to this day, but I don't talk about it a lot. Something that they would do is sometimes they would go out in public and just loudly talk about how dirty I was. Again, 6, 7, 8 years old. Loudly talking about how bad my hygiene was. And I would hear them laughing about me together. Like they would constantly have conversations about how dirty and smelly I am, instead of just simply teaching me how to take care of myself. Instead of simply teaching me how to take care of myself. And it ruined my self-esteem at such an early age. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I had really bad hygiene as a kid, and that's something that they would bully me for, like, relentlessly, right? I remember one day we were going to school. I was walking to school with my mom, and we were having a good conversation. This is also something that my mom does. She's passive aggressive, but then she's also really aggressive, but she's mainly passive aggressive, at least with me. So as we were walking to school, and we're having like such a great conversation, like it was a great time. It was a happy, fun time on our way to school, whatever. And then my mom goes, by the way, if you don't shower tonight, I'm gonna go up to your class and tell everyone in school that you don't bathe and that you stink. Yeah, I was really taken aback because I was like, where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? Oh yeah, I have notes if you hear the paper crinkling. I was like, where'd that come from? So I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, Mom, please, like, no, like that's embarrassing. Like I already go through enough. And I was telling her, I already go through enough. Like, please, no. I'm begging her not to. And she starts threatening me. I don't know if she was serious about this threat or it was an empty threat or whatever, but it was definitely, it was like psychologically damaging to me, because it was like the most vulnerable, the most like intimate parts of me at that time. She was threatening to tell everybody that I went to school with, and they already had it out for me too. So she was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to your class, I'm gonna go to your teacher, and I'm gonna ask to like speak to the entire class, and I'm gonna tell everyone that you stink and that you don't shower. was thinking about this, actually, no, yeah, at first when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, like, I mean, I don't want to admit that on social media, like, you know, but it's like, some kids don't have the best hygiene because of their parents. Like, where else are they gonna learn that from? And it took me and YouTube, thank God for YouTube, I learned how to take care of myself from watching strangers do it on YouTube. That is why I'm so passionate about hygiene, like how to smell good and how to feel good, and like, you know, to how to not get over sensory issues, because you don't just get over them, but how to work around them, how to work with them, right? And I just think I needed a lot of like patience as a kid. Like, adults in general, not just my parents, adults in general just did not have the patience with me at all. So yeah, that was one psychologically damaging thing that my mother would do, that both my mother and stepfather would do. They would constantly pin me and my sister against each other. And in that dynamic, I was the scapegoat and my sister was the golden child, right? Like I said, when she was born, I already have accepted that I was going to get less attention. That wasn't the issue. I promise you it wasn't the issue, because I was fully expecting that she was going to grow up to be like my mini-me, like my best friend, right? I was wrong. I was wrong. So everything that both my mother and my stepfather made fun of me for, my little sister also started making fun of me for it as well. There's a certain memory that happened. There's a certain memory that I have. This takes place in like my freshman year of high school, freshman year sophomore, no, maybe middle school. I don't know. It had to be at the end of middle school or early freshman year. I was depressed. I was depressed. I was suicidal. And my little sister, she was a kid. She, again, 6-year age gap. So I think if I was 14, I don't even want to do that math. It's really simple, but I'm lazy. She was 6 years younger, right? So again, not her fault. I do not blame her whatsoever. But she told me to go kill myself. She told me that she wants me to jump out of the window. And you know what my mother did? As I was like losing my mind, or like my sister and I are having like this fucking like match or whatever, like we're going at it, not physically, but like I'm shouting, she's shouting, blah blah blah, and like my mother was just like, well, obviously like it's your responsibility, Layla, like, you know, you're her keeper, like, okay, like you need to dial it down, like she is a child, like you, like something else that also pinned us against each other. My mother, of course not my stepfather, but my mother never ever corrected her on anything disrespectful that she said to me, right? She never corrected her on anything like disrespectful, verbally abusive, etc. This also ruined my self-esteem and also ruined my desire to really like be a big sister. So then that's why I said a couple minutes ago, yes, our relationship is good. I love my sister with all my heart. I'm just a very distant person. I'm just a very distant person because I blame my mommy. I blame her because like she was constantly telling me, you know, like it's up to you to have a relationship with your sister. And like, yes, I kind of agree, but it's also like you took that desire away when you constantly pulled her over to have shit-talking conversations about me. Just like how I would hear both my mother and my stepfather gossiping about me, she would do that with my little sister. And that's something moms do with their child, like with their children all the time. I've heard that's a very common thing. Like moms will subconsciously pick a favorite and then like just drop emotionally onto them. They're just like, bleh, like pour everything emotionally onto them because they're kind of like the golden child. They get praised and yada yada. So moms or parents constantly bringing over the golden child, right? And just talking shit about the scapegoat. And that's kind of their way of bonding, right? So my desire to really be a big sister plummeted. I was like, no, I'm good. Me personally, I'm good. There was another situation where the crazy thing is, again, none of this is my sister's fault. I do not blame her whatsoever. So a lot of the things that happened, she does not remember. Like a lot of the things that happened between her and I specifically, she remembers everything that like my mom and like my stepdad said and did, but a lot of the things that happened between her and I, she does not remember whatsoever. I will never forget. This is so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so silly. But it started over a cookie. right? So my sister was like, hey, like you can have a cookie. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have one later. Literally just one. By the time I get this cookie, I'm like, oh, like, you know, this is a good cookie, like not my thing. So she comes over, she's like, why are you eating my cookies? I'm like, you literally told me I could have one. She loses her mind. She's screaming, yada, yada, put them back. You can't have them, wah, wah, wah. And I was like, you told me to have the fucking cookie. Like, it's so stupid. But I was like, you told me to have the fucking cookie. Like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't eat the whole cookie anyways. I didn't like it, so then I threw it away. I kid you not, my sister, like Spider-Man, leaps, jumps on my back, and then chokes me from behind. I shit you not. It's just her and I home. Just her and I. So she jumps on me from behind and starts choking me because she's mad at me for eating this goddamn cookie. So I like, boom, like from the back, like I get her off of me, and like in her face, and I got so mad. I took her fucking cookies, like it was a bag of like those really rock hard ass restaurant cookies, like from the diner. I took her bag of cookies and I like threw it in her face on the floor. I said, clean it up. Clean it up. Since you wanna fucking choke me over this goddamn cookie, you can fucking clean it. I was so pissed. I was like terrified. I was literally terrified because as I'm going, like I was trying to make my way upstairs. I didn't even like the cookie anyways. I was like, oh my goodness, like what is she talking about? To feel someone jump on me from behind and choke me, it just reminded me of what happened. I talked about this in a previous video. It reminded me of an instance, the same exact thing happened in school. Like this guy was yanking me around and like grabbing my neck from behind because like he took my phone, he was trying to delete something off of my phone. So I was literally in a flashback. I was like, what is this crazy bitch doing? I was like, no, like it was the most silliest sister fight ever. But because we didn't have a good relationship prior, it didn't really register. It wasn't perceived as just a crazy sister fight. It wasn't, because we were ops. We were ops. I was like, my sister is my op. Like, no, like she's not my friend. Because we didn't have a good sisterly relationship, it was not perceived as just a sisterly fight. So then she calls my mom. She calls her mom and she goes, oh, Layla put her hands on me. Layla hit me. My goodness, I never ran down the stairs so fast. I said, Mom, this little demon choked me. She jumped from behind and was choking me because I ate a cookie that she said I could fucking eat. Like she literally, like she was choking the shit out of me. Like I could not breathe. Like, and the craziest thing is, like I said, my sister does not remember. She does not remember violently choking me because of this fucking cookie. And I blame my mother. I blame my mother and her father for doing this. Oh my goodness. But yeah, they came home and my mom's going in on me. Like, you should never put your hands on your little sister. You're the oldest. You should be aware of your strength. How dare you? How dare you like mush her in her face? I was like, are you serious? She choked me. She jumped from behind and choked me. And like my mother was like, it doesn't matter what she did. You should never ever put your hands on her. I was like, she literally jumped on my back to choke me. She choked. I could not breathe, Mom. She goes, I don't give a fuck if you couldn't even breathe. You should have put your hands on her. Oh my goodness. So yeah, number 2. My father, my biological father, chose my stepsisters over me. This is very long. I've already spent like 20 minutes talking about the first thing, but yeah, my father choosing my stepsisters over me. I had 3 stepsisters. This was my first step family. I emphasize first because I have 3. So my first 3 stepsisters hated my guts. I don't know why. I was significantly younger than them. There were 2 eldest ones, and then the youngest one, she was only 1 year older than me. So we clicked, but at the end of the day, she's gonna follow everything that her older sisters do. I understood that from a very early age. So if her sisters did something or said something to me, she followed suit. I was tortured on a pretty regular basis in that house. And it didn't help that their mother, my first stepmother, didn't really like me either. Again, adults in general just did not have patience with me. Like, my entire presence was a burden to a lot of adults. The fact that I was alive, like, people just like, oh. And that's also something I remember my stepmother doing a lot. And a lot of people did this, but I remember her doing it a lot. Like, she would just have like this annoyed look and almost scoff at the fact that like I was there. Sometimes like I would hear her just like sigh. People would just sigh whenever I came in the room. So my father provided for them like fully for about a decade, and he claims that he doesn't know everything that they were doing. This is what he's told me. He said, by the time that I realized what they were doing to you, you know, like I realized what they were doing to you, and that's when I decided to leave. My thing was, he realized what they were doing to me, my thing was, he realized what they were doing to me a couple years too late. It was a couple years too late. When I tell you, a lot of the shit that they did happened right in front of his eyes. Right in front of his eyes. It was not like he did not know. It was not like he didn't see it. A lot of this happened right in front of both him and my stepmother. I will never forget the youngest stepsister, the one that's only a year older than me. We had like bunk beds, right? So she had the top bed and you would have to pull out my bed from under. That's where I slept every time I came over. And again, I lived with my mom and stepfather, right? So my mom had full custody, and my father, I think like visitation rights, or like I came like every other week, every week. So that was my bed whenever I came over. My youngest stepsister decided to throw up on my bed. She threw up on my bed, did not clean it. None of them cleaned it. There was dried throw up, dry, old, crusty throw up on my bare mattress, and they did not clean it whatsoever. They did not care to clean it, right? So then when I would come over, I was like, where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to sleep? So then they were like, you can either share a bed with her, or you can sleep on the sofa in the living room. So then I hate sleeping like in the dark. I hated sleeping in the dark by myself as a child. So I was like, okay, I guess like I'll share the bed, because our room, it was like really big. So all of us were in there, not just her and I, but like the two oldest sisters as well. Like all of us were in there. They had their own beds, boom, boom, and then our bed right here, right? So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just share with her, like, you know, because I don't like sleeping alone. When I tell you, they all sighed and scoffed. They got so annoyed by the fact that I still chose to sleep in the room. So I'm just like, well, why can't you guys clean up the throw up? I think that's what I said. And they got mad at me for suggesting that they clean up her throw up. Like, especially my father. I was like, why? Why didn't they just clean up the throw up? Like, I just don't understand. So there were many things that they did to me that happened right in front of their eyes, or like they heard about it, because they were not shy of what they were doing to me. They were not shy of what they were saying to me. One day, they weren't home. My father and my stepmother, they weren't home. They came home shortly after. And I remember the middle stepsister, right? So the second oldest, she made me some food. She made us some food. She decided to take my sandwich away from me, like right out of my mouth, put it in the trash, and then say, and I was crying. I was like, why would you do that? Like, I'm so hungry. Like, you made me this food. And she was like, if you want so bad, eat it out of the trash. Oh God. Talking about all of this literally feels like a fever dream. I was like, I am not eating out of the garbage. I am not eating out of the garbage. And again, I'm not too sure if it was like a real threat or an empty threat, but it definitely did some psychological damage as they were making me believe that they were going to force me to eat my sandwich out of the garbage. And this wasn't the best house ever. Bugs and mice, and like in the trash, like, oh my goodness, like this definitely did some psychological damage, forcing me to eat out of that goddamn trash can with all those bugs and mice around my sandwich. Like, why did you take the fucking sandwich? Like, why? I will never understand why she took the fucking sandwich. There was also another incident. Of course, there's numerous incidents where the youngest stepsister and I got into a fight. It wasn't really a fight because she beat my ass. Like she beat my ass. She was beating me up. And I was still in my school uniform. I haven't even taken off my goddamn uniform. So to like get her off of me, like I scratched her. I've always had long nails, so I scratched her. And you could see that I scratched her, right? And I saw I got her pretty good. So that was the takeaway from that scenario, right? And I got in trouble. One of the ways that they would punish me was making me stand in a corner all day. I couldn't sit, no water, no food. I had to stand in the corner until they were satisfied by how long I stood in the corner. Like my back facing to them. Like I had my face in the corner. That was one of my like regular punishments. And because they saw that I scratched her after hearing and like seeing us literally scuffle as she's beating my fucking ass, the takeaway was that I scratched her, and they made me stand in the corner for hours. And I think they left. It was my stepmother and my father. They left, but my two older stepsisters were still like there. You know, like they were considered like the adults when they left. So they were in the living room. I was standing in the corner in the living room because I scratched my sister. I mean, my stepsister, but you get the point. So whenever my father says, oh, you know, like I realized what they were doing to you, and like that's when I left because him and my stepmother are separated. In my mind, I know that he's trying to make amends, but I just think that's all bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. I just think that's all bullshit. All of it is bullshit, because I'm like, a lot of this, if not all of this, happened right in front of them. This video is long enough, so I'm no longer gonna do like 10 things I hate about my family. I'm just gonna do 5 and like split them up into 2 parts. So there'll definitely be a part 2 by everything you just heard, and that was only 2 things I hate about my family. So number 3, I'm so excited. Letting me be a pathological liar. Oh, okay. I filmed an entire video that I was like, okay, it's called like things I'm ashamed to admit, and I was a pathological and compulsive liar for like 10 years. Majority of this happened when I was a kid. Oh my goodness. And I said in that video, like, one of the reasons why they let me have this issue for so long was because they didn't like me. Like, they just didn't care to correct me. That is something I will forever hold against them. Oh my goodness. Being a pathological liar is one of the things that ruined my social experience, and also just my self-esteem. Because my social experience was already ruining my self-esteem. But letting me just have this issue and just, oh my goodness, ruin my self-esteem. I couldn't really regulate between what was real and what was not, like the tales that I told sometimes. And having parents that just like didn't care, it led me to my peak of like pathological lying, and it's just so embarrassing. That's really the main reason why I hold this against them. It's just because it's fucking embarrassing, right? Like, if I had a grand old time being a pathological liar, and I was still pathologically lying, hypothetical, whatever, I was still pathologically lying today, all like happy as shit and goody, like, okay, purr, okay, like then I guess I'm just a fucking liar. I don't care, like, if that's the experience that I had. But it is not, because pathological lying literally ruined my adolescence. It ruined my adolescence. And instead of correcting me, remember when I told you guys that my mother and stepfather just like to gossip about me? That was one of the things that they just like to gossip about and laugh at me for. So I had to deal with this issue up until I was 16 years old. I had to make the decision myself to, first off, I had to go to my guidance counselor, and she had to basically write a referral, call my parents, and be like, she needs therapy. Like, she needs like out of office therapy. Like, I am not enough. Like, she needs a psychologist. She needs a psychologist. My goodness. So it definitely took like some like, get me a fucking therapist, like forcing. Oh my goodness. So it took me like 10 years. So from 6 to 16, I was lying. Okay? 10 years. And I had to come to terms with this myself. Like, oh my goodness, I'm a pathological liar. I'm a compulsive liar. And I lied about this and I lied about this. Like, such embarrassment and shame. Oh my goodness. Because the peak of my lying before I stopped, like the peak of my lying before I went to therapy and started working on myself, right, was when I was lying about being British for a fucking year and a half. My mother just sat back and let that happen. And listen, her defense was, I was just letting you figure it out and coming into your own. Okay, purr, but also, what the fuck? What the fuck? If I could erase that year, I would. If I could erase that year, I would. Oh my goodness. But I guess it's not like all her fault. Like that part specifically, that's not all her fault because I was definitely old enough to know better, but I didn't. Like I did, but I didn't know how to do better. Okay, so I was old enough to like know better. I did know better, but I did know better, but I didn't know how to like do better. Oh my goodness. And I just wish that she fucking helped me. I wish that she fucking helped me because one of the ways that all crashed and burned was my mom had this friend, T. My mom had this friend. This is T because this is going to turn into a story time. My mom having that friend. Her daughter was also my friend, T. Because, girl, so my mother decided to tell her, right, on the phone, my mom told her that I've been lying about being British for like my entire sophomore year. My mom did not tell me that she told her that. My mom did not tell me until a year later, right? Until a year later, where now like my friend is basically telling me, hey Layla, I think you're a pathological liar. And then somehow we land on the conversation that her mother knew about it the entire time. And I go, oh. So I'm just like, no. I put the pieces together. I went home. I said, Mom, fess up. What, like, I was like, fess up. I was so mad. I was so mad. I needed to stop lying anyway. So I get like, it's a blessing in disguise. I get it. But I needed to stop lying anyway. So I that's why I don't fully blame this specific circumstance, like situation. That's why I don't blame this specific situation completely on her. But yeah, she basically told me a year fucking later that she's been told this person that I was lying about being British. And I'm like, you let these people watch me and listen to me lie about Potato from fucking England for a fucking year? Are you kidding me? I was furious. I was furious. I needed to stop lying anyways. I was furious. I could not believe she did. Oh my goodness. I could not believe she did this. And of course, her defense is, I was letting you figure it out and come into your own person. Moving on. Hold on, let me cross this off on my notepad. So, yeah, number 3, letting me be a pathological liar. We're moving on to my father lying on me to make people laugh. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a common, actually, I think it's not, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is a common experience, but not just my father does this. My mom has also had this issue when I was a kid. But something that my parents would do, my father more recently, is just blatantly like lying on me, saying that I did something or saying that I said something to make someone else laugh. Like I'm constantly the butt of his jokes. I'm hearing him talk on the phone, right? I'm hearing him talk on the phone and I'm like, okay, he must be talking about my other stepsister because I have 6, right? So this stepsister who I'm relatively close with, like we talk, like nothing bad. Like she's like my older sister figure. I do refer to her as my big sister, right? So because of what he was saying, I'm thinking he's talking about my big sister. We're gonna call her Blueberry. Or I'm thinking he's talking about Blueberry. So this is the backstory. In middle school, in 6th grade, my mom told me that she thought I was a lesbian. I went to a Catholic school. So I was like, oh, you can put the pieces together, right? The queer community was not like really a topic of conversation that we had. Like it was definitely avoided and just like it was no one was really receptive to a conversation about the queer community. So because like I wasn't like talking about boys or whatever, my mom just assumed that I was gay. I am queer, but being 11 years old and hearing your mom say, are you a lesbian? It scared the living shit out of me. It scared the living shit out of me. So I told her, no, mom, like I like boys. Like, no, I don't like girls at all. Wah, 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 fucking bullshit. So I told her like, no, I'm not a lesbian. I'm not a lesbian, but I am queer. But I told her, no, like I don't like girls at all. I only like boys. I'm straight. Whatever. So that was the story. That's literally it. That is literally it. Years later, junior year, by this time it's known that I'm queer to my parents. By this, like it's known. Like no one thinks I'm straight. It's very well known. Junior year, I end up telling my dad, like, oh yeah, have I ever told you the fact that like one time in middle school I had to like come out as straight to my mom because she thought that I was a lesbian, and I told her no because I was scared of what that meant because of how I grew up, because of what I was taught in that school. But like, isn't it funny that I'm queer now? Like that's like I'm short-circuiting. Like, that's what I said. That's what I said. That was the joke. That was the story time, right? I had to come out as straight to basically like soothe my mother's ego or whatever because she thought I was a lesbian. But then I was like, no, I'm straight. And then like, I'm not, you know, like that was the joke. That was the joke. That was the storyline. Okay, whatever, you get it. So my dad's on the phone with this like really old friend, right? I probably never met them. He told me that like they haven't spoken in like 20 something years, like, okay. So I hear him on the phone talking to this friend, and he's saying that stuff. Like, yeah, isn't it crazy? Like, it started off, I say it's homophobic. I say the joke that he was making was homophobic. Like, oh, like, all these gay people, like, everybody's gay now, everyone's gay, like, oh, like, one of those. Like, he was making, like, one of those jokes, like, everybody's gay now, like, oh my god. And he's telling them, like, oh yeah, like, my daughter, she had to come out to her mom as straight. Can you believe it? People can't even be straight anymore. And I was like, okay, like, he must be talking about Blueberry. He must be talking about Blueberry because she's straight. That's my thought process, right? I was like, no, she's straight. Like, he can't possibly be talking about me. I didn't want to believe it. What do you mean, like, Blueberry had to come out to her mom as straight? Like, when that happened, she didn't tell me that. So then after he gets off the phone, I open my door, and then he goes, yeah, I was talking about you. And I was like, when? Because I'm genuine, like, I'm trying to make myself believe that he was talking about Blueberry. Because I'm just like, we had this conversation many times. So like, there's just no way that he's talking about me. So he was like, yeah, I'm talking about you. I was like, when? So he was like, oh yeah, like just now on the phone, I'm telling my friend, you haven't spoken to him in like 20 years. I'm telling my friend, like, you had to come out as straight, and like, you just, you know, you're not allowed to be straight. Like, everyone's gay now. What? And I was like, Dad, I'm not straight, remember? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I thought you were talking about Blueberry. Like, she's straight. I came out to you and Mom years ago. Like, I didn't know you still thought I was straight. I really didn't. I still had no idea that he perceived me as straight. I had no clue. I was like, I didn't know you still thought I was straight. I genuinely thought that he was talking about Blueberry. I was like, I did not know that you saw me as straight. And he goes, well, you told me that you had to come out to your mom as straight. And I was like, yeah, because she thought I was a lesbian, and I was scared of what that meant because you sent me to Catholic school, and I didn't fully know that being gay was actually okay. Like, I thought it was a death sentence because that's what I was told. Okay, like, yeah, I told her that I only liked boys because I didn't want to be sent to hell. That's what I told you. That I had to tell my mom that I was straight because she was scared that I was a lesbian, and I was afraid of what that would mean. And he goes, okay, but like, so what the hell are you? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm queer. Like, I've told you and Mom this. Like, this is, like, it's not the first time. Like, I'm telling you this. Like, I'm queer. So he goes, what does that mean in plain English? What does it mean you're queer? What does it mean? And I was like, I like women. I think men are attractive too. It doesn't really matter about the gender for me. It's like pansexual, basically. But he's not gonna know what pansexual means. So I just said queer as an umbrella term. I'm like, it doesn't really matter the gender of the person. Like, if I'm in love, I'm in love. So then he was like, well, you people just want everybody. You just want everybody. You need to pick one. Hurry up and pick one. Which one is it? I'm not exaggerating, by the way. Like, I know my mannerisms are like, no way. No way, is she for real? No, I am for real. He definitely did say to me that, like, you people just want everybody. You need to pick one. Which one is it? He definitely did say those words verbatim. I'm just an extra ass bitch. Like that, because whenever people piss me off, I have to turn them into a character. It's something that, like, I do a lot. Like, whenever people piss me off, mainly my parents, I just have to turn them into a character. Because this is something that I say, like, to my therapist a lot. I can only take my parents in small doses. I can only take my parents in small doses. Oh my goodness. So then I'm just like, after him saying all that stuff, because he's never spoken to me that way before, like, you people just want everybody. And he was maybe not yelling, but he was definitely shouting. And I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. I didn't know you were queer. What does that even mean? I was like, I did not know that you still thought I was straight. Like, I've told you and mom this like years ago. Like, it's been known for some time now. Like, I had no clue. And then he just proceeds to like scoff and have this attitude. And I was like, are you mad at me? He goes, no, I'm not mad. And he starts like acting like nonchalant, like he's just over it. He's like, no, I'm not mad. And I'm just like, you seem like really upset by this, because he just was really upset by this. And then he was like, no, I'm not upset. I'm not upset. And that was it. Like, instead of me prying even more, I was like, no, I just have to be done with this conversation. I just have to be done with that conversation. But yeah, that's just a little bit of story time of like, that's the example. Like, people, like your parents lying on you, like saying that you said something or saying that you did something to make someone else laugh. Like, you're constantly the butt of their jokes. I'm like, that's not what happened. That's not, like, why are you lying on me, right? Why? That's not what happened. That is not what happened. Moving on. Number 5, the last thing. My mom does not know how to apologize. And we're going to close up the notepad for today, because that's all I could take. My mom does not know how to apologize. And it's gotten to a point, I've talked to my therapist about this many times, but I can't stand when people say sorry to me, like people in general. I honestly can't stand it, and I try to accept it, I really do, but every apology to me just sounds like bullshit, because my mother's apologies were always bullshit. Whenever I told her something gut-wrenching that she did or said to me, she was always like, well, there's nothing I can do about that now. It's up to you if you want to move on. Pardon? That's what she said that to me on numerous occasions. I will never forget. This is not funny. I will never forget where my mom was mad at me because I wanted to wear her sneakers to school for gym class. I didn't have any good sneakers for that gym class. Like, at that moment, I just didn't have any good sneakers for gym class at that moment. I ended up getting sneakers later, but she had like some really good Skechers. I was like, oh, like, Mom, I'm gonna wear these. I was in elementary school. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna wear these for my gym class today. I have my gym uniform on. All I needed was sneakers. She had these like really good Skechers. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna wear your Skechers for gym class. She lost her mind. But by the way, we're getting ready to go out the door, like walking to school. I'm like, I have to put on some sneakers. Like, I have gym. Mom, like, I have gym. Like, I need to put on your sneakers. Like, I started freaking out. I was like, Mom, like, I need to just put on your fucking sneakers. Like, what's going on? And she's like, no, you can't wear my fucking sneakers. You're gonna mess them up. She got really aggressive. Like, you know, like, moms are so extra. Oh my goodness. But she was putting on a performance for these damn Skechers sneakers. So then I was like, what am I gonna wear? So it turned into us having a damn like screaming match over these Skechers, right? And I'm like, no, I just need to wear your Skechers. Like, what am I gonna wear? I have no good sneakers. Like, what am I gonna wear? So then we're screaming. I'm yelling like, Mom, I need your Skechers. You won't let me wear your shoes. Like, I'm losing my mind. She starts yelling at me, want. My sister, she's a fucking baby. She has no idea what's going on. So then it ended in my mom, like, she had the sneakers in her hand. I don't even have the sneakers anymore. She has the sneakers in her hand, and she took one and threw it at me. Like, she threw it at my back. Like, it hit like right, like directly on my spine. I say that because we're like, oh, sneaker, like, whatever. By the way, those Skechers were not like the soft, bouncy kind. They had a pretty hard bottom. I'll put a picture. I was a really like thin kid. I still am thin. I'm 115 pounds. I'm 21 and 5'4.5". Can you imagine how much I weighed when I was 10 years old in 5th grade? I was a really thin kid. So you saw how skinny I was. So when she threw the shoe at me, I felt it directly on my bone. Like, I felt it directly on my bone. I was like, oh my goodness, I was in so much pain. And it did bruise. It definitely did bruise. And I was so sad. I was like, why would you do that to me? Like, I'm crying in pain. She didn't give a fuck. She just ended up cursing at me some more. And at the end of the day, this is Black mom's way of apologizing. They just like, hey, do you want some food? No. Not from you. You gonna fucking poison it. You threw a fucking sneaker at me. No. So this was definitely like, this is definitely a black mom's way of apologizing. Like, you want some food? Hey, you're gonna stay mad at me? You wanna go shopping with me? You wanna go to the mall? Instead of just saying sorry. Instead of just saying sorry. So my mom was like, hey, you know, like we're gonna go to, you know, have some steak or whatever. It was some restaurant. We're gonna go, like, go out to dinner, and, you know, like, you're more than welcome to come. But if you don't, and if you choose to stay mad, like, that's on you. If you don't want to move on and have a good relationship with your mother, and you want to make me out to be this horrible mom, then that's on you. Actually, no, this wasn't elementary school. This was 7th grade. And now I remember the teacher that I had. This was 7th grade. I was 12. So yeah, the point still stands. Like, I was a really skinny middle schooler. I was a really thin kid. Like, that shit hurt. That shit hurt really fucking bad. So that was her way of apologizing by telling me it's up to me if I want to move on and make amends with my mom because she threw her fucking sneaker at my back because I didn't have any good sneakers for gym class. Anyways, but yeah, those are 5 things I hate about my family. If anyone sees this, let me know if you guys want part 2. Bye, guys.